to what made this country great. Until the Arab oil embargo, prices can go really up. I remember pumping gas at 17 cents a gallon.
Yep. Yeah, we have two Saudi Arabias beneath our own soil right now of this liquefied natural gas.
But we were told we're running out of oil.
No, I know, right. That's the leftists always say that we have scarcity. We don't have scarcity. We're brilliant people, right? In the United States, we have more Nobel laureates. We got MIT, Harvard, Stanford. We have scientists that discover new chemicals, new molecules by the day, right? We got people at Randolph-Macon at small D3 schools inventing new molecules and finding new things, new patents, and they make money on it, right? So if you let Americans do their thing, there is no scarcity, right? They said we're going to run out of food 200 years ago. Then we're going to have an ice age, and now we're heating up, right? We have two Saudi Arabias worth of natural gas beneath our own soil right now, and the government won't let us go get it. And at the same time, I mean, just totally ironically, right? Russia is holding Ukraine and a bunch of countries hostage for natural gas repair, right? It's threatening to freeze them out. We should just ship a bunch over there, make money, make friends, and that's capitalism, right? Next question, please. Yes, sir. And then, yep.
If you're elected, would you meet with your constituents?
Yeah. Good. Yes, sir. I make a commitment and a pledge. Term limits, I will also pledge to put in either a flat tax or a fair tax as a bill. And I will meet every county and city, the city of Richmond, once a month, period. Right? My job is to represent the people, and so I'll make a commitment to meet every single county once a month while I'm in office. And that's going to be some burning some rock. Right? That's going to be some, right? It'll be a busy one, but that's my job, and so I'm going to do it.
If you are elected, you can have your monthly meeting here.
Good. Hey. It won't be downtown with the lawyer groups who are not supporting me. I do have a memory, and I will remember who my friends are. And my friends are here in this room. Right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, part of the situation in the United States, what I know.
Yeah.
What about coal? I understand in Texas and places in the West, they have to tell the coal power plants from operating, and their power bills are going to double and getting ready to go up again.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people that use it working to money.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a free market guy, right? So I'm not against, and I'm for algae, right? I'm for whatever, as long as the price is cheap and it's efficient, right? So coal works, so I'm pro coal. If something comes along that's cheaper without government subsidies, right? I mean cheaper for real. I'm in favor of whatever, windmills, ocean, whatever, right? But I want the free market to solve that problem so it's real, right? Natural gas, that's happening already, right? So that's what free market people believe in. The ingenuity of the American people will solve our energy problems. There's no problem with that. And the coal, we're much cleaner on that. Rich countries, right? The left thinks that being rich is just bad in and of itself, right? It's absolutely false. Every rich country, what happens to your environment as you become richer? They become cleaner. Fact. It's just fact, measurable, right? As you become richer, we all want to have a clean, right? When I take my kid fishing, I want them to have fish in there that don't have radioactive eyeballs, right? So, of course we care for the environment, but we're not bad people, right? Over time, rich countries solve the problems. We get it right. It's not all perfect, but we get it right. Yeah, sir.
I want one thing, and that's grade school to teach reading and writing and arithmetic and civics and government. When I was a kid, government made the law. Congress made the law. Now it's agencies all over the place. I don't want them in my life, but the problem is nobody knows what our government's supposed to do. We don't teach script anymore, or whatever it is when you write primitive. Okay? So how are you going to read the documents that this country is based on? The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. We don't teach these kids anything. And so now we're going to send you to Congress, hopefully, to fix this. But you're not going to win. You're not going to take it on. I mean, I'm willing to vote for it
You'll be surprised, you'll be
There's got
surprised.
to be more to it.
Yeah.
First of all, we got to stop the agencies
Yeah.
from making laws that we don't want.
Well, I've been giving that talk for 10 years before I was trying to get elected. I give a talk called The Soul of the American University by Marsden at Notre Dame. And I basically start off with what's in the curriculums at the K to 12 and what's not in the curriculums. And what's not in the curriculum for the first 13 years of your kid's life, we teach them no religion, no philosophy, and no ethics. And at the ripe age of 19, we expect them somehow to be good people and no ethics. Right? For 13 years. And some people, the Virginia way, right, is, well, we do that in family here. We do that in family. And I had an educator say this up at a crowd, and in the next paragraph, he totally goofed up. Because then, the next paragraph, he said what the breakdown of the family is in some of the inner city schools. And what percent of families are out of tact, right? No mother and father with the kids? 70%. Right? So the public schools aren't teaching civics along with reading and writing and the fundamentals. So what's the answer? I mean, the answer is get rid of No Child Left Behind, get rid of all the federal intrusion and everything, take that money, block grant it to the states, and get the teachers some responsibility again and autonomy to teach the kids. They're scared stiff of disciplining kids and etc. Right? And if that doesn't work, I'm all for vouchers, right? And choice. Give everyone, we spend about $5,000 a year, the Virginia contribution to public ed. It's $12,000 a year, right? So the state contribution is about $5,000, the local is $5,000, and the feds put in $1,000. So there's plenty of money. You give a check to the family and say, here's 10 grand, go educate your kid, right? And there would have to be some requirements on that you cover some fundamentals. But I think that experiment would work out well. It has through all history, right? My standard joke, I shouldn't say this because it's risky in a political talk, but Socrates trained in Plato on a rock, right? There was no 10,000 a year. There was no fancy gymnasium, no waterfalls in the atrium, no Asian food court, right? Socrates trained in Plato, Plato trained in Aristotle, basically with nothing. And the greatest minds in Western civic. So it doesn't take money, it takes discipline. The rest of the world's got that, right? China and India, they're working their tails off, and they're beating us. And we need to wake up.
Well, discipline's a big thing.
Yeah, that's the, right. Yeah, right. Right. And that's what no politician's willing to say, right? Part of it's demand-driven, right? Look at our media. Look at the stuff we have is demand-driven, right? The kids want to have 4 years of a party.
Yeah.
Right? And the parents, most parents are allowing that to happen. They're not saying, hey, discipline my kid hard. Right? I'm not hearing that every day.
In first, second, third grade they can't discipline. That's sad.
Yeah. Well, that's because the values, there's no shared values. I always ask my students in class, you can vouch for me. I ask, who's our great moral teachers these days? Every generation's always had great theologians or philosophers by the century that you can name. Who do we got right now?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Beyonce, etc. Right. When you can't name a serious philosopher, a national name, or a serious theologian, or a serious religious leader at the national level, your culture's got a major problem. You got a major problem. Yep.
Do you believe that we will get common core, or do you
No.
support common core?
No, I'm against Common Core. I'm against all federal intrusion. I don't think we're going to get the teachers. I get talked with teachers showing up now. The teachers are finally weighing in because they're sick of it. They don't get paid huge, right? They go into their jobs to teach and make a contribution, and they like kids. And so when they can't do that anymore, then they're like, why am I doing this? I'm getting low pay. I can't teach the kid. I can't be creative. Right? I can't do it my way. Yeah.
On the way over, I heard you in a commercial
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
about the fact that you were Tim Kaine's
Right.
economic advisor.
Right.
Would you clarify that? I
Yeah.
think that was a standing committee,
Yeah.
was it not anyway? Standing, didn't matter
Yeah.
who the governor was?
Yeah.
And you served about 3 different governors?
Yeah. He says I'm on the Council of Economic Advisors, which is a federal thing. We don't have one of those in Virginia. So other than that, it's all true. And then he said I was Tim Kaine's hand-chosen protege. I never met Tim Kaine. I'm not his hand-chosen protege. And then he links it. The Richmond Times-Dispatch did a thing on this. And they said, the statements are true, but it's unfair. right? So it's kind of proof that you didn't do this malicious thing, right? So it's like saying to you, you like matches, and there was a fire over there, and you like matches a lot, and you like starting fires, and there was arson there, and you were right by the building when it started on fire, right? All these statements could be true, right? You like roasting marshmallows and having big fires by you, right? So they put a bunch of statements that are true together with the intent to deceive. And so I sent that to Warren Fisk, get on his case. He's a PolitiFact guy at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Get on his case, and I sent him the definition of a lie I said my third grader knows this stuff. I said, definition of a lie is to intentionally deceive. Right? So if you tie things together, so he says, I was on this board that does revenue estimates only, and Tim Kaine raised taxes $1 billion and raised you, and Dave didn't say anything about it. I can do that to you. It's an endless trap, right? So the intent, I asked Warren, I said, do you think, Warren, that he put together that ad to help get me votes or to deceive voters? Right? But they won't ever answer the obvious because then they're all in on it. Yes, ma'am?
Was the question over there about Common Core?
Yeah.
And what did you say? What are your thoughts? That was my question, and
Yeah.
I heard you say something about it.
Yeah, no. Common anything I'm against. United Nations, common everything. If you say common, by definition, you're saying it's top down. I'm going to force this on you, right? That's what dictators do, right? Dictators say, here's what you're all going to do. It's the reverse of this country. This country, the people say, no, here's what we're going to do, right? And I'm going to send my kid, I'm going to pay your salary, and you're going to educate my kid the way we want you to educate my kid. Well, we've lost control, and parents are just horrified. The yuppies, I live by Short Pump, it's all yuppies. They're scared of these administrators. And so Obama's got a picture, a poster up there, right when you walk in my girls' elementary school a couple years ago. It says, Obama profiles and courage. Right? So I asked the principal, I said, well, did you have this poster when Bush was there? Did you have profiles and courage? No. I said, well, that's a shocker. Right. And then so I said, well, if you have a Republican in the future, will you put profiles and courage? And they're like, So parents need to get some guts and just ask these basic things in public and embarrass them, because morally it's indefensible, right? And it's ironic, the left talks about, what's the big word they always use? Diversity, right? True diversity is letting individuals be individuals, right? That's true diversity. The arrogance, right, this is Hayek economics and whatever. Hayek wrote a book called The Road to Serfdom and explained exactly what's going to happen to Russia. And in that book he described what's called the fatal conceit. And the fatal conceit is when an economist in the ivory tower thinks that I know better how to run the world than you do. Right? That I know what's in your head for 300 million Americans, and I'm going to tell you what to do. No, I do not know what's in your head. I do not know what you want to do on a given day. It's a free country, right? And so I should set up a system that allows you to flourish and be yourself. That's true diversity. The left does not believe in diversity. They believe in top-down, I'm going to force my way on you. Obama's forcing undiversity on everybody. It's not diversity, it's top-down, central planning on everything. One healthcare, here's what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to pay, here's your choice, here's what you're going to do. That's not diversity, right? It's all upside down. Who else has got it? Yes, sir.
Yeah, what got me involved in the Tea Party is economics.
Good.
Quite essentially, I had to dig myself out of a serious financial hole because of the market. It was tougher than I thought. I had a lot of free time on my hands, so I did a lot of reading on really Austrian economics. The way our current administration is acting, and others have, mirrors the FDR and Woodrow Wilson administrations for the favors. They're giving money to essentially their lackeys and calling it distribution is redistribution of wealth, plain and simple. As a House member, what would you do to get the spending under control, which under the Constitution, the House controls the person, they don't know how to do it.
Right.
From what I've seen, I'll settle for adding and subtracting. I'll just cut my losses on the multiplying and dividing. I just need an economist to show them how to add and
it's not just little marginal changes, right? In order to avoid those insolvency issues with Medicare and Social Security, you have to do some major cuts. And so that's what politicians aren't willing to say, right? We're going to have to take some bad medicine coming out. And so we're going to at least have to just balance the budget. No more. I mean, they think it's good that, right, the past 5 years, for the past 5 years, we had $1 trillion deficits. 4 in a row. And now it's good news that it's only $500 billion this year that we're going into debt more. Right? So we have $500 billion in deficit this year, which adds to the debt. So the Republican leadership spins that, right? They're spinning just like Obama, and they say, well, the deficit's going down. Right? Well, that's a true statement, just like Eric's ads against me. Right? So the deficit's going from $1 trillion down to $500 billion, but it's still $500 billion more debt at the end of the year. Right? So it's just, they're just spinning out of control. So we need a balanced budget immediately, and that doesn't solve the problem. Right? And then you're going to have to increase the working age, right? Social Security, Medicare, and all that. These weren't intended to be retirement programs. Right? These were intended to be, you know, disaster prevention for seniors, and I'm all for that. Right? But it's in the worst case scenario, it's not at 65, you get your the average death age back then was 65. So it broke even. Now the average death age is 80. Right? So can you pay everyone in the country a huge chunk of money for 15 additional years? No. That's why it's insolvent. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning of it. Yep.
Okay, if we cut sending money to DC, cut all those jobs and people receiving the money, then redistributing it back to the states, how much money would that save? And cut those jobs out. I mean, it's like me handing someone money to hand it back to me, and I'm paying that person to hold my money.
Right. Well, more importantly, so I know the Keynesian economists, right, the liberal economists, they say there's no difference between federal spending and state spending, whatever. And that's not true. So if you take, say, $4 trillion, say you take $1 trillion away from DC and put it back in the private sector, right? The private sector actually creates what's called economic growth. Right? Government does not do that. And so then the pie grows again, and then you get enough money to run the country well, right? But that's what's not, the economy is not a zero-sum game, right? Economic growth is a good thing, but the politics is a zero-sum. Whenever government takes power from you, you lose power, right? And so we need to end that, and if we do need to, I mean, 1/4 would be a nice little chunk. Right?
We have a question here.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
I'm sorry. This is a little bit different. I think notoriety is always a dangerous thing. And I think some probably decent people have gone to D.C. And there is a relentless seduction away from the values that took you there and toward values that we don't agree with. My concern is what kind of plan, or you don't have to tell me, but do you have a plan? The influence peddlers are 24/7 up there. And there's a relentless pull away from the value. I would like to know that you have a plan to avoid that, because it's a corrupting thing. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't become something totally different in a day or so. It's the old frog in the pot.
Right, that's it. That's right.
And I'd like to see, if you're going to D.C., to have some kind of plan in place for you and your family and for us. But you're not going to get sucked away a little at a time and gradually become somebody we don't know.
Right.
Even if you've got a term limit of 3 terms.
Right.
It's amazing how much transformation can happen in that environment.
I got a plan. It's called the Plato plan. Plato said you should go into government after you're done with sex, drugs, rock and roll, and power. Right? He actually said that in the Republic, right? So about 50, that was the average death age back there if you were Greek. 2,400 years ago. Right? So my plan is, and I seriously think St. Augustine said the same thing. Right? So the Plato plan is, the best evidence I can give you so far is I'm 50 this summer, so I take that as providential. Right? So I'm 50 going into politics. And I have not enriched myself yet. If I wanted to enrich myself, I would not be at a church-affiliated liberal arts college. Right? Just for starters. But it is the right question. So what's my plan? My plan is I'll make pledges on paper ahead of time. That's called ethics, right? When you put the rules down ahead of time. So I'll make pledges, and you know, if I break those pledges, they're bribing me me, threatening me, right, extorting me or whatever, and that's the plan. You put it on paper ahead of time, and once I go astray, kick me out. And don't let someone stay over 10 years. You see now Eric Cantor's got, right, if you've read the book Extortion by Peter Schweitzer, go read that book if you haven't read that. The money chain, he is the money guy in the Congress, #1, right? And that went from the Hammer. Tom DeLay was the money man to Roy Blunt, Missouri. And you don't want to read, I mean, if you read about these connections these guys had, you won't sleep good at night. And Roy Blunt handed the gavel over to the #1 money raiser in Congress, and that's Eric Cantor. And just an example in that book, there's 2 examples. One, to get on the ethics committee, which is the lowest, scummiest committee you can be on, having to do ethics in D.C. Right? To get on that one, you got to bundle $100,000 to the caucus, to pay the Republican caucus to get on the ethics committee. I'm not making it up. In the second story in that book, he's got a thing called toll booths, and McDonald got in trouble for the Rolex watch. I don't have any watch on. It's on my phone. Right? He got in trouble, and it's against the law. Quid pro quo. Right? This for that is against the law. This guy, I called him. He was going to be my speaker, but the school said I shouldn't bring him in because I'm running. But I'll bring him in next term. I'll still be here. Right? I don't start till January. Y'all get me in. But I'll bring him in. And he said every single bill he can show with precision, bills come in and they just sit there in the toll booth until the lobbyists pay the bill. And then the bill within 2 to 3 days, and he can show that statistically, the bill moves after the money comes in. And so in the past we've said the lobbyists, these lobbyists are the bad guys, the K Street lawyers, lobbyists, whatever. This guy's thesis is no, that's not what's going on. His title is Extortion. He shows the politicians are extorting the lobbyists. And the lobbyists don't even want to do it. But if you don't do it, you don't get your bills moved. So it's not about a Rolex, it's about every single bill in the United States Congress right now to put you in a good mood at the end of the evening. Right? I know. That's how bad it is. That's what's going on. And this guy is no slack. This guy's Stanford University Hoover Institute. And he moved himself down to Florida from D.C. so he wouldn't get corrupted.